Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back with another Big Love Season 1 review. Nikki, in my opinion, continues to get on my nerves. Nikki is smart. At certain times during this episode, I feel like she's an idiot, but I feel like overall, Nikki has a lot of layers and Nikki is smart. Because Nikki is a tyrant just like her daddy. Nikki is incredibly self-serving, and she's always going to find a way to avoid taking responsibility for her actions, but make you feel like she is. She is a con artist that is multiple steps ahead of everyone else around her. And she's going to make sure that you feel sorry for her. We see how she finds her way to weasel in to the various adults in this family and get her way, to make them feel sorry for her all throughout the episode, and it works. I'm going to try not to make this recap as long as the last one. If there's something that I forget to mention that you want to talk about, feel free to put it down in the comment section below. Let's begin. So when I saw Roman and Bill in the attorney's office, I already knew something was up. I don't know why Bill always falls for this whole Roman has turned over a new leaf and you've won situation, but for whatever reason, he does. So Bill and Roman are in the conference room where it's very quiet and all we hear is the rustling of papers along with some signatures. There's paperwork and there's a guitar on the table. No words are spoken, but you can feel the anticipation in Bill as he watches Roman signs, and you can see Roman acting nonchalant as he watches Bill's signs, because for Roman, nothing is changing. Everything is pretty much the same, right? Right. I think the opening of this episode with this scene provided us with another glimpse into just how much weight has been on Bill since the season has begun, because he is stressed out from all of the crap that he's facing by being in bed with Roman. For the first time in the series, we get a little bit of a glimpse of what it would look like for Bill to be free, but the freedom doesn't last long. So Bill comes home and he's excited to let Barb know that he is free, that he and Roman reached an agreement, and he wants to have a celebratory situation, but not celebrating them, celebrating Don and Betty, who is going to be Don's fourth. He says he's ordered lobster for everyone and he's going to build a fire pit. Now, Nikki is at her house. He heads over there, tells her, when I was living out on the street, I just wanted something of my own. And I dreamed of having just one thing of my own. And now not only do I have that, but I have all of this. I have homes and I have, my beautiful wives and I have my 7 beautiful kids. And I think it says a lot about Bill, who went from living on the streets to not only being married and things of that nature, but he's been successful and he's created a business for himself. So even though last episode I kind of called him a Cody, he has done things to show that he's a little bit more now, not much more, a little bit more business savvy than him. So he tells Nikki, with this situation, I'm free and now we can start a third. He's excited just for Nikki to kill it. So Nikki, after literally giving Bill the ride of his life because they just finished having sex and she was on top and he says he likes when she's in control, in the midst of his excitement, right after he climaxes, right after he finishes, Nikki decides that she's going to drop a bomb on him. All right. She's going to make sure that she creates a big situation here. Now, she didn't think it would be big, but she dropped her bomb. She says, Bill, I love you. I love you, Bill. And he's like, I love you too. And she goes, I'm in debt. I'm $58,000 in debt. I was waiting for the right time to tell you. I said there that Nikki is an idiot. First of all, because you got 9 credit cards in the first place. That's dumb. Secondly, because I think that she thought that if she put it on him, if she gave him some really good kitty cat, some really good crumpled cookie, that it would make this situation turn out differently. But I feel like it was bad timing. I don't care how close you are with your spouses. The time that you tell a spouse a secret isn't right after you finish being intimate. Not bad news. You can tell them good news after that, but you don't tell them bad news. You got to let them enjoy what just happened. But I think that this is just, Nikki playing games and Nikki doing what she does. And she felt like that would soften the blow. Maybe she thought that, him being in an even better mood would, make it easier. So Bill is pissed and he can't even understand how she managed to get that many cards in the first place. When he finds out that it's 9 of them, he's naked and he gets out of the bed with his blanket to go into his car. He's sitting in the car and we see Nikki eventually run out in her see-through negligee as she stands there, and he tells her to get out of the street before someone sees her. She's like, "Where are you going?" He says, "I don't know." He's so pissed that he doesn't come back until the next morning. So he comes back in the next morning. He walks into Barb's with the same blanket and says, "Sorry, I overslept." He then questions Barb about the finances, saying, what do you know about Nikki's finances? And Barb's like, she's playing coy. "I know that she gets $850 allowance like the rest of us." And he says, "No, I'm talking about her shopping." Nikki is eavesdropping on the conversation, and he reveals to Barb that Nikki is in debt to her eyeballs. She owes almost $60,000, that she's had a lot of transgressions, but in his mind, this is the worst. So Barb is like, it's a mess, but we can refinance it and consolidate some of the cards and cut up the rest. This is when Bill realizes that Barbara's a little too calm about this situation and that she already has a plan, which means she already knew about it. So now Bill is mad at her too, and he goes up the stairs upset. Nikki then comes in the kitchen acting like nothing's happened and that she can get out of this situation easily. The fact that she does this makes me feel like this is a common occurrence for her. This is what she does. She says, it's no big deal. Everybody on the compound is filing bankruptcy left and right. But it's not common, and it is a big deal, because if you can avoid it, it's not something that you want to do. But she's over here acting like it's not a big deal and that it doesn't affect the people around her, when we know that in one way or another, all these people are tied to each other. So she's trying to butter up Bill, but he wants no parts of it. As usual, Marge is standing there out of loop. She doesn't understand what's going on, and she's trying to question it, and Nikki's like, "Mind your own business." We see Heather and Sarah hanging out, taking it's not a personality. I feel like it's the Enneagram test. Right? Talking about their personality types. Heather says that based on Sarah's family, she figures that she's an introvert because the way that they're raised would affect how she deals with people. It would affect her. Sarah is like, "That's not, on me. That's on them. That's my parents' lifestyle." But I never thought about it in this episode, but it's true. The way that they're raised does affect the kids in multiple ways, because they aren't allowed to be as open about certain things. They can't necessarily have friends come over and visit. They can't say, "These are my moms." They have to be far more secretive about their situation. One of Don's wives comes over talking about how excited she is that they're going to be throwing a party for their 4th and how she wants to practice outside as a surprise. We find out that it was unanimous vote, which causes Marge to want to know if they voted on her. The answer, of course, is yes. And then she wants to know how the vote happened, because she's hearing that one was unanimous, so she wants to know if hers was too. So we see her question Nikki, then Sarah, then Ben. Sarah is smart enough to not disclose any of the details about the vote. She says it was a few years ago. She doesn't remember. She may need to ask somebody else. So she goes to ask Ben. Sarah is over there trying to get Ben's attention, and she's doing like this to Ben, like, "Don't disclose anything," but Ben is oblivious. So Marge is like, "Ben, do you know anything about the vote to have me join the family?" So he's like, "Which one?" She says, the vote to have me join. He says, which one? She says, the vote to have me join. He's like, yeah, I'm asking which one, because there were multiple votes. We had a few of them. And she's like, huh? And he says, it kept coming 2-1. We see Sarah make a face like, oh my God, why would you tell her that? And he tries to fix it, but it's too late. So now her feelings are hurt because she thinks that no one liked her. So she goes back to Nikki another day and she's asking Nikki about the vote again. Nikki doesn't want to talk about it because she's going through her own stuff. Marge then flips the script, basically letting her know, like, you may not want to alienate me and you may not want to be that way towards me with the position that you're in right now. You shouldn't be mean to anybody. So Nikki is making it seem like she would never vote against Marge, that would be impossible. But at this point of my notes, I wrote, I think she was the one who did it. Because appearance-wise, Nikki seems to be the one who is still very much so tied to the cult. And I don't think she would want someone like Marge in their family. Little did I know, I was right. But we'll get to it. It's another day. Margene is now questioning Barb about the situation, asking her if she was the person who voted against her. Was it the same person who did it each time? Like, what was the situation? And Barb, because Barb is protecting everyone in the vote, says, you know, what's important is that we all agreed at some point and you're in the family, which is true. But it just shows the immaturity, in my opinion, of Marge, that she wants to continue to have this discussion when at this point you're in the family and this information isn't going to help you. It's just going to cause additional problems. So we meet Betty. Betty is Don's fourth, and she is introduced to Bill at the store in his office. They go to say goodbye, and he's making out with her in the office. And Bill is like, okay, that's a bit much. You might not want to do that. He's like, no. As far as the store is concerned, she's just a regular shopper who's here, right? So he says, okay, she's a regular shopper that's here. And oh my God, y'all, these balls on this tree are driving me nuts. My son came in here because he heard me say something about needing to do this tree. And I'm looking at the tree, and what's going on the tree is no cohesiveness, and it's driving me nuts. So don't mind me if I keep looking there. I feel judgment. Don't judge me. It's really driving me nuts, though. I don't even remember where I was because it's driving me nuts. Betty leaves. He and Don talk business. I think I skipped stuff. He's never fallen so hard for a woman before, which to me could be problematic because is she your favorite? Like, what does that mean? She looks younger. She looks different. She's not dressed like the other wives. The other wives are way more, old school in their approach. And she seems a little bit more modern. So there's a difference there too. I think she too is younger. But enough of that. So he and Don talk business. Bill is excited to think about how much they can make from the new store, because we see him earlier go out with Don to this land where they can have all this stuff and they've been approved and the bank is going to loan them money and yada, yada, yo. And it's about to happen. The deal is sealed. Or is it? So he gets a call from Nikki, who wants to talk about their little whoopsie after dinner. Her words, whoopsie, not mine. He has no desire to talk to her or for her to switch her night with Barb. She's talking about switching night with Barb, and he tells her to switch it back. He tells her, as far as he's concerned, he doesn't want to see her for a few days. I don't like silent treatment. I'm the type of person who, if something's wrong, I want to address it head on. When I don't, it bothers me. It gets me anxious. I feel like I'm going to implode. And I want to talk about it. So him, in my opinion, like not wanting to discuss it, and he may have his reasons, it bothers me. But I got to be truthful too. You referring to that as a whoopsie would make me not want to talk to you. A whoopsie may have been a couple of $100, maybe even a couple thousand, but 60,000, that's not a whoopsie boo-boo, which shows she still doesn't get it. So he's later looking over the bills and he doesn't understand how she got to this point. He was like, why are you using a credit card for so many unnecessary things like candy? Nikki, in my opinion, is the constant victim. She feels like he hates her and that he will throw her out, and she wants sympathy from Barb. So she keeps on going to Barb and putting the bug in Barb's ear, right? I feel like she does this not just because she legitimately feels this way, but because she knows that Barb is going to feel sorry for her and that Barb is going to try to influence Bill in some type of way. Y'all tell me what you think. So she tells Barb she wants to sell her car to pay off the debt. And Barb is like, it's not your car to sell. The car belongs to all of us. And it's really in my name because my name is on the registration. I don't understand why her name had to be on the registration. How do they explain all of this? We see Heather's father comes to the house to pick her up. He mentions that he was really eager to meet Bill because Bill was invited to the father-daughter pancake breakfast and he didn't come. And this is when Bill realizes he's a state trooper because they saw the car pull up outside and they got nervous, but he's there for Heather. He leaves with Heather and Bill is upset that he did not know this. But Sarah's like, she's my friend. She's not going to say anything. It's okay. We later see Barb say that she feels like they should cancel the party and that they should work on things that's going on with the family. He doesn't want to hear about that. Instead, he wants to talk about the things that are going on because he says they need to have this party. He's already spent the money on the lobsters and he just feels like the problem is that Nikki has been lying for years and wives have been hiding things. And Barb's like, I get it. I don't like lies either. That's one of the reasons why I said that we needed to stop doing what we were doing with going to the motels. But it's Nikki's place to tell you, not mine. You're my husband, but you're married to 2 other people as well. And I said, this once again just goes to show you how much these people's lives are intertwined. On Sister Wives, they like to tell us how each marriage is separate, but then sometimes they say that you can feel when there's a problem with one going on with the next. This very much so is a representation of how they are very much so all one marriage, which explains the Darger's version of it, where in their book, he said that the wives dated each other platonically because it was very important that the wives established a relationship before they could have one with him. The foundation of a successful polygamous relationship, if you're going to have one, in my opinion, is that the women actually like each other, that they actually care about each other, and that they actually want this, because it just seems like it's a different approach. So Bill talks about the whole situation with Don and how he just can't forgive Nikki for doing this, for putting them into so much debt, and that he feels like his emotions are out of control. As they're having this conversation and Don's like, you got to forgive her, thunder strikes and it ends up putting a hole in the ceiling of the store. So while in the store looking at this situation, Roman strolls in with some of his wives to visit. They look like, I don't know, they're on The Price is Right or supermarket sweep as they're going through the clothes and folding up the thing like they've never seen these things before, right? So he looks at the hole and he tries to correlate this hole to God's wrath. And he reminds Bill, because Bill's like, we reserve the right to serve who we want to, that, I'm not coming here to cause. No, he didn't say he wasn't coming there to cause problems. He's coming there as not just Roman Grant, but as, his father-in-law. He's the father to one of his wives, and they are family. I feel like Roman just enjoys harassing people, and this was Roman warning Bill and letting him know what was going to happen next. Because he returns paperwork and says, this is the stuff that Albert took. And he points out that he's aware of him trying to do something to a historical site. He mentions the very site that later is going to have the sign that says it's historical, meaning he's aware that you're trying to develop something on that land and he's going to get you. As he walks off, Don is like, what is he doing here? And he says, I don't know what he's up to, but I don't like it. We see Margene, and she's at dinner with Carl and Pam, the next door neighbors. She doesn't realize that they've set her up on her double date. I don't understand why Pam and Carl are so intrusive as a couple. And I don't understand how lonely Margene is, that she keeps putting herself in situations where she puts her family at risk. But it is what it is. So her date arrives saying that he heard a lot about Margene. Marge tells Pam that she is not emotionally available to date, but we see her laughing and joking and enjoying her time with Pam, Chad, and Pam's husband. We later see it's another day when it happens to be raining, and Chad comes to her house in the middle of the thunderstorm with flowers in hand. And he tells her as he walks in and she closes the door behind him that he had a burning in his bosom and he couldn't get her off his mind. And he had a revelation that she's the one for him. So now he's going to kiss her, is what he says. She leans back to avoid the kiss. First of all, why are you popping up at my house? Second of all, those men love saying that they got a burning revelation or a spark from God when it's more along the lines of you have an attraction or an arousal about this woman. But we're going to put God on it to make it sound better. So she dismisses him, telling him that she's interested in someone else. And he basically tells her like she may want to look in another way. The girl is married. So what way is she looking? We see Bill. And he's mad. Nikki approaches him outside at night while he's digging the fire pit. And she says she's tired of him ignoring her. He lets her know that this is about so much more than money. That he's going to take care of her debt because it's the honorable thing to do. But after that, he doesn't know what he wants to do. So, of course, Nikki runs to Barb. She wakes Barb up out of her sleep to say that he's going to throw her out. Y'all let me know. Do y'all really believe that she thought that he was going to throw her out? Like, because I'm on the fence about it. Part of me feels like she does. And then part of me feels like, no, you just saying that because you know Barb's going to feel sorry for you and worry about you feeling like you're going to get kicked out. But y'all tell me what you think. She says that she's seen it done to other people and that she's seen her father do this. And Barb reassures her that, you know, Bill isn't that type of person and she wouldn't let him do that. And if he did try to do it, she would leave him. Just goes to show you how, even though the dynamic is the way it is, and even though I feel like this isn't what Barb wanted, that they are protective of each other. Next thing we know, Nikki is asking if she can stay over at Barb's house. And Barb says yes. And she automatically gets on Barb's bed and the kids are already there with their sleeping bags in tow. Nikki is a user. So it's the next day. Nikki approaches Bill again. She tells him she's not keeping any more secrets. She's going to tell him everything. Because honesty is the best policy. And her father helped her get the cars. And he's made payments from time to time. And last month he gave her $3,000. And as he's lighting the fire in this fire pit, Bill is yelling. And we hear him say, God Almighty, what else are you keeping hidden? You're deceitful and you're underhanded. And this is unbelievable. And the flames are going up high as Bill's anger gets higher. Definitely a symbolism to me of the family imploding. And Nikki runs away. She runs off. Accepting a new wife is the family's decision, not just the man's. This is shown to us because Don stops by, dropping off a cake that Betty made, and he looks extremely sad. He announces that Betty has been blackballed while helping Betty unpack. Paige came across, not Paige, was it Paige? Peg? One of the wives came across something that showed that she was a part of a different church group, which then created a discussion. And it turns out she was part of a bunch of she was a part of a lot of different cults, one of which was called the Family. So the wives feel like she doesn't need to be a part of their family because they don't feel like she can commit. So he's crying because he can't marry her like he thought he would. And the barbecue is off. Bill, on the other hand, isn't even thinking about all that. He's upset because of how much money he wasted on this lobster. And Barb's like, look, there's more important things to worry about other than money, even when it comes to Nikki and what she did. So as this discussion is had and Barb walks off and tells him to think about that, Sarah then uses this opportunity to tell her father that, she hates what happened to Betty because Betty had to hide a part of herself. But she also hates that she has to hide a part of herself because of who her family is. And that's part of the reason why she didn't invite him to the pancake breakfast, because if she did, she didn't want him to introduce himself as Bill, father of 7, husband of 3, right? Sad that kids have to worry about that. So we see Margene go to Betty, who's in the car, and she talks to her and says, I didn't think we had anything in common, but now I realize we do because I too was almost voted out. And Betty's like, yeah, I know, I heard the story, and it's okay because, there's something else out there for me. The truth is that the wives in this instance are in control. Right? Don ends up spending the night in his car because the wives ganged up on him and said that they felt like he did not do enough to research Betty. We find out later from Bill that the land that they were looking to build on is now gone. An injunction has been filed and the land will be held up for years at this point. And Don is confused because they had it, like they had the people out, the surveyors were coming, they had the paperwork drawn up, so they don't get it. And he says Roman did this. Next thing we know, Bill gets a call from Barb and she's saying, Nikki didn't come home last night and she called me and she said goodbye. That girl, soon as I heard this, before even finding out what we found out, I said, that girl's not about to leave her kid. She's lying. If you really wanted to leave, out of all people, why are you calling Barb? Because you knew Barb would do what she did, which is call Bill. Nikki tells him as he sees her in the mall sitting there looking like she's trying to fill out a piece of paper and looks like she's so distraught because she got stuck on whether she's single or married or not, that she stayed the night in the shelter. She's lying. Bill says, despite the mistakes you've made, we've made a covenant with each other and we can disagree and we can argue, but we are family. We aren't at the compound, and I don't kick out family members the way that my father did. And Nikki is like, your father didn't do it. And he's like, yes, you did. My father did kick me out. He said, no, my father made him. Mine did. He's like, what do you mean I was 14? She says, my father was afraid of you even at 14 because of who your grandfather was. You were the grandchild of the prophet. And whatever came your way, you always handled and you didn't give up. And he saw that in you. And this is a revelation in many ways for Bill, but it's also Nikki's way of coming back home. So Nikki comes back home and she's all smiles when Margene tells her she's glad she's back. And she wants to know who the vote was. She says she has to know who the vote is. And Nikki's like, I was the holdout. Because Margene, I thought you were too needy. And, I always worried about you wanting to be the Margene show because you needed a lot of attention. And I didn't think that you would be ready for this type of life because it's not an easy life. Making it sound like she really, really cared about her. I do not feel like that was the truth because her actions say otherwise. I don't think she wanted her in the family because she didn't want her in the family because she doesn't have the same beliefs as them. It's clear. She doesn't even know a lot of things that go on with sister wives, right? She then turns around and she smiles like, yeah, she fell for it. And we see that she didn't stay at a shelter. She was instead at a Hotel Marriott. She even has the receipt to prove it. So you sat here, you made all these people feel bad for you, and you weaved your web and you connected the dots and you moved the people across the board how you wanted to move them across the board just so you can get away with this. And she did. So I give Nikki kudos for being smart and for Nikki getting out of it. We later see Bill. He goes to the place where the store was supposed to be built, and there is now a sign saying historic preservation where his business was supposed to be. So the stinky lobster that was left over is now thrown out onto the land. And that is the end. If there's something that I left out, feel free to put it down below. As I said before, in my opinion, at this point, Nikki is very, very much so running these people. She's a puppeteer doing what she wants, how she wants, much like how Robin managed to do it. She found her in. Barb is the person that she makes feel bad. I thought Barb was more like Janelle, but I'm seeing some of Barb's characteristics are reminding me more of Mary. She saw her as the end, and as a result of that, she got away with it. Go ahead, Nikki. Still don't really care for you. But go, Nikki, because I respect an intelligent woman. And the way that she went about this and she got out of $60,000 in debt, kudos to her. Y'all let me know what you thought about this down below. We're on the road to 2K, and I hope to get there sooner than later. If you've been here a few times and you haven't subscribed, what you waiting on? Go ahead and join the family. We got a little bit of everything over here, and it's a safe community. Until next time.